Welcome back. February is Black History Month. Recognition is given to the strides and achievements made by black people over the centuries. Today, we focus on the history of Dube, a suburb in Soweto. The area was envisaged as one of the first townships in South Africa where black residents were able to design their own homes. The area boasts famous political names like anti-apartheid struggle stalwart Andrew Mangeni. We're now joined by Sehonghong Sathuto Secretary. Sorry, I completely botched that name. You'll have to tell me. And the Secretary is Cheche Selepe. Welcome. Please give us the name for your organization so I can hear it.
It's Sehonghong Sathuto, and it's famously named after a place wherein one of the oldest residents of the area, who died last year, he was 104. He lived in Sehonghong, and as he was transferred to Ohlange with John Dube himself.
Okay. So yesterday you had a heritage tour of Dube to try and sort of relive or bring to light the history of the area and some of the famous locations and the famous names. Tell us about some of the stops you made along the tour.
Oh, thanks very much. The first stop was at the Sehwale home. This is the home of a famous World War II soldier and also a father to one of our first democratic premiers of Gauteng, which is Tokyo Musima Sehwale. So there we had to unplug, to actually unveil the plaque. It's the old man who was very active also in keeping the memory of Mandy Day. He is believed to be one person who has celebrated Mandy Day like no other in his time here in South Africa. So we made a stop there, and his wife is still alive, and she was there to witness the whole thing. And then from Sehwale's home, we went to Andrew, one of the last surviving ex-Robben Islander and Rivonia treason trialists. So there as well, we actually unveiled, and he was there, he was happy. I must indicate that Andrew there's no passage or even a corner that has been named after the old man. I mean, there are many, maybe about 14 streets named after some of our famous revolutionaries, but not for Andrew. So we did that, at least for Andrew. And we went further down, there's Potlako Kishinaleballo. This man was a man who he was a World War II soldier as well, arrested twice or thrice during the war, sentenced to death, but his sentencing was commuted by General Alexander, and he came back. He started a fracas at Loveday School. That's where he started to join the war. He was a student at the famous and very prestigious institution, the oldest school in Africa, a mission school in Loveday. And then he was addressed there. He joined the war, coming back, of course, to try his studies, but it was bad. He started a revolt there. But he was one of the greatest World War II soldiers, and also one of the people who started the whole 1960 revolt. The place, his house, is not far from Robert Sobukwe's house. And from the writing by Benjamin Procrunt on a book about Sobukwe, he mentions that house name, 1144 on Klapo Street, that's where the Sharpeville group started. And that's when the whole Sharpeville shootings were orchestrated. He was second in command to Sobukwe, moved to Lesotho. He started his whole things over there. So we actually did much for him. And then we went to the two doctors, Kuma and Motlana. They lived in one house, and their activist wives. Dr. Kuma's wife was the first Women's League president. And Dr. Kuma also founded the Youth League. It was him, under his leadership. In fact, he could probably be the best ANC president, the best president the ANC has ever produced.
So how does one area deliver such a concentration of great minds and people so involved in the struggle? Is it to do with the area itself, or was it just to do with coincidence? Surely it can't be.
There could be some elements of coincidence, but one critical point is that with the destruction of Sophia Town around 1955, in Dube we had one person called PQ Vundla. There's a house. He's the father of Mufundi, who is the writer of Generations. So PQ was the chief of, or like the main man of the Western Native Township next door to Sophia Town. And so in 1955, as they destroyed Sophia Town, most of the elite, they moved to the Western Native Township. And then, now you had PQ with a big constituency. And then he had to craft a deal for them, at least to see where he takes this critical constituency. And that's when there were negotiations around 1946 when John Dube died, the founder of Otlang Institute and the editor of Ilanga newspaper. When he died in 1946, a decision was taken that let's establish a place which will be a place where the elite of Sophia town and various grey areas that have been destroyed could stay. And I think PQ was instrumental in that. And that's where we had all this elite, including the 200 soldiers, returning soldiers. They all were placed in that area. And then, of course, it was, we can call it, yes, the Sentinel of Soweto history in the past, of course.
And of course, it's so important to remember the past, not only of a people, but also of an area, to preserve that and to pass that knowledge on to future generations. And that's why celebrating Black History Month is so important, both internationally and locally. Well, thank you very much for your time, Cheche Selepe. That's all we've got time for today, but we will definitely continue celebrating Black History Month.